What if your commander wasn't just one creature? What about if your commander was 5 creatures, all wearing a trench coat, acting like it's one creature? That's basically Mutate in a nutshell. One minute you have a little harmless little 1/1, next minute you have an Octopus Phoenix Nightmare that has lifelink, trample, menace, double strike and your credit card details. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most complicated and weirdest keywords that Wizards have ever made, Mutate. Now when it comes to this, I won't be explaining everything it does because it is very complicated. There is like an hour-long video explaining all the rules and how it works. In this video, I'm just going to give you the basics and explain why it is one of the best keywords ever created, and then give it a final overall kind of review on it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Commander Class episode 176. Today we're going over my favorite keyword of all time, Mutate. Now when it comes to this, I'm going to not be biased. I'm going to give the best examples I can on what you can do with it. But I will let you know straight in advance that if something seems like I'm hyping it up a little bit, it's just because I love this keyword more than any other keyword. So when it comes to this, we are going over Mutate. Mutate came out in Ikoria, which if you've watched any of my videos, I will say that and Strixhaven is my best plane of existence in Magic the Gathering. When it comes to this, I will be giving a brief description of Mutate and how to use it, showing off Mutate commanders, not commanders you mutate on, just commanders with the keyword Mutate, showing a fair few or a handful of other Mutate creature cards, going over kind of the top of the iceberg when it comes to this keyword, and then giving an overall review. So what is Mutate? Mutate is an alternative casting cost. On a card at the top, it will have the cost to cast the card. This will say Mutate and then have a fair few symbols or color man next to it. If you pay that, you get to do something different. Mutate only works on non-human cards. So if a creature type is some form of human, it doesn't work. Realistically, what you're doing is if you will say have a 1/1 dog on the battlefield, and in your hand you have nothing but mutated creatures. You get to go, cool, I'm going to pay the alternative cost and I'm going to put this card on the top or the bottom of my dock. And what realistically happens, depending on what you do, is the text box on that dog gets bigger and it adds the text onto that. The power and toughness of the dog also changes for whatever's on top. And the best way to kind of visual this is imagine your then dog getting a scorpion tail or wings or beaks or claws. The dog is mutating. What you're doing is fusing the two creatures as one. You're getting the text box and putting it together. That mutate creature might have vigilance, your dog now has mutate vigilance. That mutated creature might have vigilance, your dog now has vigilance. Your dog was a 1/1, but you put on top a 2/3, that is now a 2/3. Then, a lot of the time, mutate cards will have in its text box, when this card mutate, blank happens. You then get to do blank. It depends on what the mutate card is for the different things. Some are more powerful than others, but the more powerful the card, the harder it is to get out. If you are a Dragon Ball Z fan, pretty much the best way you're thinking of this is you are just fusing two cards together. That is it. But it has to be non-human. Now there's a few cool things you can do. One of my favorite things to do is there are enchantments out there that you get to equip onto your creature, and then when it dies, it comes back. The cool thing about that is if your creature is mutated on, they come back separate. So I actually have, if people are interested, I have a mutate deck. It is one of my favorite decks I've ever made, and the whole point of the deck is you just mutate as many times as you possibly can on the same creature. So your opponents rather have two things. They can deal with this like 25, the card's as long as my arm, big massive creature. Or they can destroy it and then have 25 creatures to deal with, or 10 or 15, depending on how the deck's running, plus then it becomes a thing. I've added in flash and stuff and untap my mana. So when it comes to other people's turns, I literally just go, cool, on your turn, I'm going to mutate 2 or 3 more times per turn, get all these triggers. It gets like +2/+2, then an additional 1/1, then I get to draw a card, I get to steal something from you, and it gets to do a load of things. And my favorite thing about the deck is it's different a lot of the time. Because you have 100 cards in your deck, you're not getting the same Mutate cards majority of the time. So I've had it sometimes that I've ramped once or twice, and then I've gotten one that lets you get a spell back to your hand. So then I'm just ramping the entire game. But then I might not see that another time. But then I might get one that lets you steal a permanent from an opponent. Then I have an entire board of other people's stuff. Then in another game, I might get the one that gives you +2/1/1 counters whenever you mutate. Then I have like a 50-50, and then I go, cool, Rogue's Passage, boom, dead. So I think Mutate is really good and quite complicated though. So if you're interested in me doing a deck tech on that deck, let me know in the comments down below and I will get on that right away. However, there is 6 commanders with Mutate that you're allowed to put into your deck and have as commanders. When it comes to these, they are Brocox, Apex of Forever, Eluna, Apex of Wishes, Nethroi, Apex of Death, or Timmy the Ever Playful, Snapdax, Apex of the Hunt, Vadrox, Apex of Thunder. All of these cards came out in the same deck and are quite good commanders in their own right. You get to do really cool things with it, and when it comes to them being your commander, if you have a creature on the field, you're able to mutate it on and get its additional benefits. Then there's cards like Apex of Death, which I've put in many decks just for no reason, just because its ability is really good and broken. All of these are very powerful creatures and can rather be in decks that its ability works well with, or just build a deck around. The cool thing about them is that they're cool commanders on their own right. Mutate Works, even them as a commander, they're rather good at building a deck around, or if you already have a deck that does something similar to it, putting it in, so it's good either way. And it also encourages different deck building and ways to strategize. But if you're also wondering what other cards have Mutate on them, there's a long list, but I'm only going to go over a handful of the rares and mythics. But you get other Mutate cards just like Cub Warden, Direbat, Everquill Phoenix, Gem Razor, Mind Leecher, Sword Tusk Demolisher, Sea-Octopus, Sovereign Snatcher. I actually think most people should look at Mutate more, look at their deck and put a lot more in it. A lot of people will have like a 1/1 Death Toucher or whatever, and then they'll play a card like Murder. However, if you have a 1/1 Death Toucher, putting in something like the Bat is pretty much like putting in Murder, but that 1/1 with Death Touch becomes a like 4/4 with like Flying and Death Touch. So it is a really cool that if you have a card that's somewhat similar, to switch it out with this one. I find Mutate is way better than a lot of people think, and that's what it is. Because it's so complicated, it seems a lot of people just go, yeah, no, I'm not bothering, I'm just going to put in Murder instead for 3 mana. Because when it comes to it, it pretty much does everything. Overall, what's my opinion on Mutate and what's my final rating? To be honest, I'm going to give this a 9.6. Now I know that's quite a high score, however it does everything. It can go in nearly every deck as long as the colour goes with the commander. They're really good to build around if you have a commander. They have really unique abilities and really powerful ones at that. My only downsides with them is one, it is a very complicated keyword. I had to study for ages and look up loads of different ruling and stuff like that to build my deck and how it would work. And 2, there's been one set with them and not many cards with Mutate have been created since. We might get more, but the other hard thing about that is if they make more, it's going to get more and more powerful. And having a keyword too powerful is not a good thing. However, I do think this is the best keyword they have done and made so far. But as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions on Mutate and what you would rate it down in the comments down below. And while you're there, remember to like and subscribe and do all that YouTubey stuff we always ask for. And if you like this video, I have last week's Commander class here, a playlist of all the Commander classes I make here, and a subscribe button here, and I will see you all in the next video.